Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Poland and Ukraine are strengthening their relations in the face of the increasing danger posed to the two countries coming from Belarus and Russia. The Deputy Ministers of Foreign Affairs from those two countries met in Warsaw today to discuss their next steps. Speaking at a press conference, Polish Deputy Prime Minister Marcin Przydacz said that his country supports Ukraine's right to choose whether to join NATO and the European Union without external influence. Poland is convinced that every country has the right to decide on its own goals in foreign politics as they deem necessary. In the case of Ukraine, Ukrainians should decide on their own in which direction their government should steer in terms of foreign policy. If Ukraine continues to think that integration with the European Union and NATO is in the interest of Ukraine, and if Europe is ready to accept Ukraine into the EU and NATO, which Poland naturally supports with its open door politics, then this decision should be between those two sides without the interference of third-party countries. Ukraine has become the main flashpoint between Russia and the West as relations have soured to their worst level in the 3 decades since the Cold War ended. Moscow has dismissed what it perceives as inflammatory suggestions that it is preparing for an attack on Ukraine and has defended its right to deploy troops on its territory as it sees fit. Przydac's Ukrainian counterpart, Mykola Tochitsky, said Poland was facing a hybrid war from Belarus. We know how the current hybrid war can be more dangerous than a war led with arms. In this context, we look very much forward to Poland heading the OSCE in the future from 2022. I would like to thank the Polish side especially that during such a difficult time with the migration crisis with illegal migration at the border, that Poland did not leave us alone and reached their hand towards us in partnership and cooperation, not only in the sphere of information, but also with concrete measures. Minsk has been sending waves of illegal migrants towards Poland, Latvia and Lithuania in retaliation for EU sanctions imposed in response to Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko's crushing of protests against his disputed re-election last year, and is designed to destabilise the bloc. Thousands of migrants are still stuck on the European Union's eastern frontier. The European Union has proposed curtailing the rights of migrants at its borders with Belarus, including allowing asylum seekers to be held at border camps for up to 4 months and allowing for faster deportations. The measures are meant to make it easier to stem the migration flows artificially created by the regime in Minsk. The proposals are the latest European Union attempts to deal with what it describes as a crisis manufactured by Belarus. The European Union has accused the country of flying in migrants from the Middle East and pushing them to cross through the woods into Poland, Lithuania and Latvia.
And what we're presenting today is a cohesive, meaningful package that at the same time provides our 3 member states with everything they need and at the same time fully supports, respects and preserves what we stand for, namely right of asylum, principle of non-refoulement and the full respect of fundamental rights.
The 3 EU countries that border Belarus have defended their approach of pushing migrants back without individually assessing their cases or granting them a realistic chance to claim asylum, which progressive rights groups say violates European Union rules and international humanitarian law.
This temporary legislation will last for 6 months. It only covers the EU territory, and it will give the opportunity for Poland, Latvia and Lithuania to have a longer period for the registration of the asylum application, to clarify where they have to be special points for the asylum application, and that is possible to direct people to those points.
Under the proposal by the European Commission, national authorities would have a longer period of up to 4 weeks to register asylum applications. Asylum seekers could be kept for up to 16 weeks at the border, losing the right to be held in more suitable centres inside the country. However, Poland and the Baltic states have implied that they favour a policy centred on full pushbacks of illegal migrants across the border.
I think it's important to say that fundamental rights are not being touched. And we are following the Council conclusion that says that we should do what we can to help have a more flexible response at the borders, fully in compliance with fundamental rights. And this is our proposal.
More than 1 million migrants arrived in 2015, overwhelming the bloc and dividing member states over how to respond. Poland's government has been a leading anti-immigration voice since then and often clashes with the European Union on migration policy. Speaking at the NATO Foreign Ministers meeting in Latvia, United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that Russia is putting in place the capacity to be able to very swiftly launch an invasion of Ukraine. Blinken also stated that such a move would result in the United States responding with significant economic sanctions against Moscow. The United States Secretary of State has made clear that Washington is deeply concerned by evidence that Russia has made plans for significant aggressive moves against Ukraine and will respond with a range of high-impact economic measures if Moscow invades. Blinken said Russia's plans include efforts to destabilize Ukraine from within, as well as large-scale military operations.
Now, we don't know whether President Putin has made the decision to invade. We do know that he is putting in place the capacity to do so on short order, should he so decide. So despite uncertainty about intentions and timing, we must prepare for all contingencies while working to see to it that Russia reverses course.
Ukraine urged NATO on Wednesday to prepare further economic sanctions on Moscow to deter any possible Russian invasion.
We've made it clear to the Kremlin that we will respond resolutely, including with a range of high-impact economic measures that we've refrained from using in the past.
Russia has spent the last couple of weeks by deploying around 100,000 soldiers in close proximity to its border with Ukraine. Moscow has stated that it has been forced to do so by Ukraine's aggressive posturing, something which Blinken dismissed.
And quite frankly, it's perplexing, because the idea that Ukraine represents a threat to Russia would be a bad joke if things weren't so serious.
Blinken added that there was tremendous solidarity within the NATO alliance and willingness to pursue strong measures if Russia invades Ukraine. After having surged in polls, Eric Ciotti from the Conservative wing of France's centre-right Les Républicains has won the first round of the party's primary elections. He will face off with favourite Valérie Pécresse in the second round. Despite keeping a high profile during the campaign, the EU's Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier failed to gather enough support among the party's rank and file to advance to the runoff. As the three candidates who failed to advance to the runoff have all thrown their support behind Valérie Pécresse, she remains as the favourite to become the party's presidential nomination. Opinion polls indicate that it is unrealistic for the party to achieve its goal of returning to power for the first time in a decade. Michel Barnier received 27,000 votes and 24% of the votes. Valérie Pécresse received 28,000 votes, which is 25%, while Eric Ciotti received 29,000 votes and 25.6% of all votes. Those taking part in the second round, which will open tomorrow morning at 8 a.m, will be Eric Ciotti and Valérie Pécresse. Eric Ciotti, a staunch right-winger among the party ranks, came first among the 5 challengers, a surprise result. However, his lead in front of Pécresse, who heads the Greater Paris region, stands at only 1 percentage point. Voting in the second round begins on Friday and the winner will be declared on Saturday afternoon. Opinion polls before the party's first round vote showed Ciotti would perform weakest of the 5 in the April presidential election, with 6% voter support nationally, while Pécresse could get around 10% of the votes. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.